attempt to adjust the volume.
We are controlling the broadcast.
For the next hour we will control all that you hear.
You are about to experience the knowledge and insights of the Media Mothership.
Welcome here to Edge Radio 99.3 FM with Craig as your host, joined as always by Taylor.
What's up?
Co-host. And this is now Media Mothership. On Media Mothership, we explore how media and popular culture changes and shapes our world around us. In particular, I think the last week's episode, which we did on cyberpunk, had a fantastic thumbnail image for its YouTube and podcast. Of
Not really.
You reacting with genuine laughter and emotion. So that's all real, of course, because we are streaming on YouTube and Twitch. If you want to see a video of us sitting here talking, you can jump onto the YouTube and Twitch. Let us know if the audio is working. Last week we ran without audio.
Oh, okay, right.
And then we still got a couple of views. So I don't know what that says about our audio. But do let us know if the audio isn't working. Audio certainly is.
But how will they know?
Well, because they can then go to the FM signal if they're within the Hobart metropolitan
Yeah, but if
area.
they've already logged into this, then they're like, oh, Craig's just ballsed it up again.
Yeah, then they log into edgeradio.org.au.
But they might not do that.
Wow, that's one. Yes, they won't hear this.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, which is a shame. But they would already be fans of Media Mothership, knowing
right.
that we also go off on the live stream on edgeradio.org.au.
Yes.
We're also on the DAB. So feel free to audience interact with us on SMS 0488811707 or post a comment on the Twitch or YouTube live stream.
Yeah.
Let's hit the songs. That's beautiful. Thank you so much. Shall I put both of your mics on, I wonder? You got kind of a stereo vibe.
No, just this one.
Yep, okay, good. Right, so today's topic, we are going back in time to 1995.
Woo!
Yes, I came
The
across...
year of my birth.
Oh, great. What an auspicious date. That was the year I completed my honours thesis, looking at the irresponsible images of cyberpunk in Japanese animation. Mm-hmm. And I came across recently, as I was cleaning up my, huge archive of a library, one of the magazines I used to do my research with.
Oh, that was this one?
Yeah, we'll hold that up to the camera. So this is Comics and Interviews, 1995, issue 148. And this is at the cusp of anime kind of entering the Western market. So I've been kind of uploading my honours thesis to the Media Mothership website.
Wow.
So, people
Thrilling.
are going to get so excited by this episode, they can go and read the honours thesis that was part of the background research. But we're going to spend this article looking at the first article. We're going to spend this show looking at the first article in that magazine, which is speculating on the future, the current 1995 business structure of manga and anime in the US and what the near future holds.
As it says, what is anime and why is everybody talking about it?
Yeah. So here it is.
Though if you don't know what anime is, you probably call it anime or something like that.
Well, Japanimation was the term that was awkwardly used up until this point. So this is 30 years ago. So it's 2025 now. So it's an opportune moment to look back 30 years ago as to what was this kind of, quite significant cultural change which was about to hit. I guess just to put context, put people in context, a quick snapshot of what 1995 was about. Right, you're looking in terms of what the internet meant in 1995. You only had dial-up, so it was that classic modem sound. Google didn't exist. Of course,
dial-up.
it was very limited. It was, you've got universities have it, some homes have it, but not everyone was at all engaged with the internet.
Flip phones.
Well, you had, really, there weren't any smartphones in 95, right? Or at least not in,
Really?
in MySpace. 95 was not a kind of, there were smartphones, but they were really expensive. It wasn't a really smartphone era.
No, I'm talking flip phone.
Yeah, flip phone. I mean, I do remember
Flip
I
phones
got a
aren't smart.
phone. I got a phone, an old phone in like '96, but it was very expensive.
Here's the one from.
Yeah, I mean, you had to pay for SMS calls.
Yeah.
Right. It was incredibly expensive.
Oh no, that was when I was alive. You had to pay for SMS
All right, still
calls.
to your age, yeah.
Or dollar per minute sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, mainly you just use landlines still. There wasn't social media. Social media was not a thing.
Thank God.
And in terms of entertainment, we're looking at, particularly access to anime. It was either bootleg stuff, so you go to your local anime club at a university or some mate's house, and you just watch bootleg VHS tapes that were on these mail order catalogs you could grab, and they were all fan subtitled. And it was super niche, right? The kind of anime access was very narrow. There was, previous to that, Astro Boy, Battle for the Planets, Kimber the White Line, that had been on television. Many people didn't really flock to those as being a distinctive Japanese experience. In fact, many people didn't know they came from Japan.
Yeah.
So, of course, today we have a very different landscape. You've got streaming, you've got Crunchyroll streaming all the anime. You've got cons, which are set up specifically on anime, cosplayers. So it's a radically different environment. Back then you were basically looking at TV schedules to figure out if SBS was going to show an anime movie. This wouldn't be 95. I mean, SBS started to broadcast anime, I think probably late 90s, Pally or something. Anyway, so it was a much more niche space. It wasn't on demand and binge watching as it is today. So it's a radically different environment, which is why the environment was kind of filled with images like this. We'll play a short clip from Manga Entertainment. This was their Cyberpunk collection promotion, right? Tying into last week's discussion of Cyberpunk 2077. This is their pitch. This was 1995, so this is the time this article came out. This is their Cyberpunk collection promotion, which gives you a taste of how anime was being marketed as a type of subversive, risky, futuristic experience that wasn't at all the cartoons you were watching at home.
Yep.
All right.
Nice.
Yeah. Any moment now.
Do. Just talk amongst yourselves.
Oh, here we go.
No, we're still not going.
Yeah, no, it's
You can't have
the
dead air.
VHS is loading up.
Manga Entertainment presents you with a future sooner than you imagine. A hyper-reality experience that'll reload your mind. 3 series, 9 episodes, hard data, unlimited information, easy access. The Cyberpunk Collection. Get ready for them. Cyber City Oedo 808, data 1 to 3. Hard-hitting criminals turned cops come up against some real mean cases in a bid to reduce their sentences. It can only mean action all the way.
Try this for size.
AD Police 1 to 3. The police force of the future has its hands full, keeping crazy cyborgs under control, especially when they look this cute. Don't watch if you're squeamish.
You can give me what Alice used to. Can you do that?
Genocyber in 3 mind-blowing parts. When a nutty professor plays with powers beyond his control, you can always be sure something's gonna happen. Well, it doesn't happen any weirder than this. Unbelievable entertainment. The Cyberpunk Collection, downloaded on video. The future, now.
All right, so that's Manga Entertainment's pitch for, download the future on VHS now. So, it's throwing in this kind of assortment of future terms like download, but very much based in this kind of mid-90s non-internet based experience of, you download it to your VHS.
Yeah.
Which is wonderful. So what I want to do now is, with that in mind, right? So that's this idea of, mid-90s, introducing manga and anime. I've converted the article to audio using Clipchamp and an AI voice. So, full acknowledgement there. I just did it to be really quick.
Did you type it in, or did you use sort of like AI vision to make the words?
I scanned it,
Okay,
and then I did OCR. And, I could get you to read it, but...
No.
Let's not. Yeah. So...
I prefer to hear the voice of...
We'll hear how disastrous the AI is, and then we might change our mind. So here it is. So this is what we'll do is we'll go through, like I do in my tutorials, paragraph by paragraph, breaking it down and analyzing what it gets right, what it gets wrong about what it's foreseeing in the future, what sheds some insight into what media consumption was like back then, and kind of, what it underestimates, all these questions.
So who's speaking?
Now, this article, it's weird. This article isn't attributed to an author, all right? But I was reading through it, and I reckon this is a kind of promotion piece for one of the main US anime distributors at the time. They're called Video Comics, coming out of, I think it's Streamline Entertainment back then. Most of the companies it's referring to have been bought up or become something else. Some of them...
I meant the AI voice.
Oh, right. It's not Davis.
It's not Davis.
It's not Davis. They've updated their AI voices, so sadly not Davis. But yeah, this is an unattributed article via...
Well, it says on the front, David Anthony Kraft's comics interview, so maybe it's David.
No, that's the editor of the magazine. And there is an editorial in there. There's an editorial in there, but not there. All right, let's start with paragraph 1. What is anime and why is everybody talking about it? From 1995, Comics Interviews, issue 148.
Why is everybody talking about it? Issue 148, 1995. Over the past few years, animation produced for the Japanese domestic market, known as anime, has been finding its way onto shelves in comic book specialty retail shops and video stores throughout the country. It is a business which has evolved out of an underground, unlicensed movement to bring this material into the States by the vanity duplication, red bootlegging, of imported anime laser discs. The material which has surfaced has remained, for the most part, niche product which augments the imported manga, Japanese comics, and occasional imported video game which makes its way west. The potential for mainstream exposure to anime will be put to the test by several factors, including the syndicated television release of Sailor Moon and Dragon Ball, as well as upcoming video releases by mainstream distribution entities such as Sony, Polygram, and Orion Pictures. There are rumors that Marvel may even be considering entering into this field. Sony is launching its effort in the...
We'll pause it there. So that's... Okay, so that's those first two paragraphs of... anything there that rings a bell of familiarity to you. You were born on 95, so this isn't part of your lived experience, but this was the world you were born into that it's prophesizing. That, we've got Sailor Moon and Dragon Ball around the corner, which is going to possibly be this is the US market, though. So the Australian market's slightly different, but I think, certainly in terms of explaining the contemporary environment, it's much more globalized today. So we've got Sailor Moon and Dragon Ball. We've got companies like Sony, Polygram, Orion Pictures, and Marvel. Anything leap off the page to you and say, oh, yes, I know that?
Well, the thing that immediately leaps off the page when it was read out to me was anime laser discs.
That is old-fashioned, isn't it? Laserdisc. Have you ever watched Laserdisc?
No, I don't know what it is.
Oh, right. Laserdiscs are fantastic. So they came out kind of the next quantum leap up from VHS tapes.
Yep.
It's meant to offer a more crisper digital image. The size you could get them in were record sizes. So they were huge, the size of an LP record. And you would normally need to get like 2 discs to play an entire movie out of. They were quite clunky. They were prone to scratch. And they only had a tiny market in Australia. I know when I was living in Sydney, I'd often go to the Chinatown video stores, and they'd have laser discs you could get of Hong Kong action cinema. So I'd often pick up a laser disc from them, and because I was in student accommodation with some Hong Kong students, they'd have laser discs they'd have brought home or brought back from Hong Kong.
Yeah.
So it wasn't really an Australian market, but yeah, look, I mean, and also the US market had laser discs, so it's not really a UK Australian experience in Australia. Yeah, so that's wonderfully dated.
Yeah.
the laserdisc anime laserdisc space. The great thing about those laserdiscs was that they did get the you got the full art covers. So just people love records for their art because they're so large and the art can really pop. Same with laserdiscs, right? Compared to a little crummy VHS box, the laserdisc presentation was gorgeous.
Yeah.
But super expensive.
So when it says Marvel, that's not, what's it called, Marvel? That's not US Marvel.
That was US Marvel. There was Marvel Comics.
Okay.
Right? So this is, I mean, Marvel went through a number of hiccups, but was still considered one of the big media players in terms of, certainly, I mean, it was this with DC superhero comic producer. Marvel hadn't done much in terms of animation, a couple of projects, but wasn't successful. But nevertheless, it's Marvel's interest in manga was seen as one of these moments of, wow, a big US comic book publisher is considering entering the comic book space.
Yeah.
None of that, of course, happened. I mean, it's a bit right and wrong. I mean, Sailor Moon, you're familiar with Sailor Moon? Did you ever experience anything to do with Sailor Moon?
Never watched any of it, but I know of it, and I've seen pictures of it.
Right. So it completely missed you.
Yeah.
I mean, it was on Australian TV for a bit, and in '95 it launched in Canada as a syndicated cartoon show, and then to the US at the end of '95, and it made its way to UK and Australia, and was part of the kind of the school morning and afternoon cartoon blocks.
I mean, it might have been when I was conscious, but yeah.
Oh, look,
pretty much my thing was between 2004 and 2012 is what I remember.
Yeah. And look, Sailor Moon didn't become the big success that was prophesized in terms of it was successful, but it wasn't a huge cultural phenomena. That again, they point to Dragon Ball as the next possible cab off the rank that's going to create a huge swell in mainstream manga and anime interest. That is a little stronger. Dragon Ball Z gained quite a larger following, and again launched in '95. It did struggle initially with low ratings, but has still ticked over what's considered a mediocre success. It's interesting as I'm reading through this article that the big success isn't mentioned, which is Pokemon.
Oh, yeah.
Right, so Pokemon didn't come on the scene until '98 in terms of its animation run, and you can really see there what it took to become successful, right? That, yes, while Dragon Ball and Sailor Moon are mainstream successful properties, they weren't at the level of Pokemon and its kind of huge machine of success across video games, plushies, cartoons, and the fact that pretty much everyone's heard of Pokemon. In a way beyond I've seen an image of Sailor Moon kind of experience. So the real success that they're hoping for doesn't come until at least after '98. In the US, you have those kind of syndicated or those kind of compilation cartoon shows for kids called Toonami, which was much like Cartoon Connection or Agro's cartoon show or
all of these, which I've never heard of.
Yeah, I mean, it's state by state, right, in Australia. I'm not sure what Tassie had in terms of, some shows after you come home from school, there'd be a host that would introduce cartoons that you'd watch.
Roller Coaster.
Okay, Roller Coaster here. See, I missed that, I don't know. I had...
Cheese TV.
Oh, yeah, Cheese TV, right, yeah. So those are the moments in the Australian market, those curated experiences that would then hype and introduce animation titles, which made that successful change. But that wasn't this '95 period, nor the initial years after '95. It really didn't reach into that success. And certainly in terms of Sailor Moon and Dragon Ball Z, both were middling successes. They're fondly remembered, but it wasn't in terms of how the article's kind of setting up the big hope for success.
They're still relatively well known.
Yeah. So a small clip in terms of, so this is another short example from another Saturday anime promo from '95. This is from a US channel. I think it's the Sci-Fi channel in 1995. So this gives you an example of what the promotion was for anime in 1995 in America for their
On the
Sci-Fi
channel, yeah.
This fall, Saturday mornings on the Sci-Fi Channel, it's Japanese animation in the raw, and this ain't no swim in the kiddie pool. Cutting-edge anime that's pure power and sheer genius.
Be ready to receive this sacrifice.
Saturday anime on the Sci-Fi Channel coming this fall.
So it's a little more salacious, right?
Yeah.
It's very much that kind of coming out.
Animated television doesn't have to be for kids anymore.
That's it. Yeah. And I guess that's the market they're trying to open up.
Yeah.
That it's not just a children's experience anymore. It's adult and risky. Anyway, jumping back to the article.
Yep.
Animated version of Street Fighter 2 offered at an extreme sell-through price point. Polygram has taken on the distribution of the US branch of a UK company, Manga Entertainment. And Orion Home Video has entered the picture by making an output deal with Streamline Pictures to serve as the distribution arm of Streamline's video comics library. Each of these distribution companies has a different approach in attempting to bring this material to the mass market. Sony and Polygram are handling the video distribution as a traditional music company distributor. Orion, on the other hand, has concentrated on distributing Streamline's video comics as a traditional video distributor.
I'll just pause it there. So it's interesting, the reference to manga entertainment.
Yep.
So manga, I mean, the Australian experience of manga and anime was really heavily defined through the success the US manga anime import companies had, like in particular Manga Entertainment. And they took a much more direct-to-video market. You could pick those up at your video store and so forth. Whereas in the US, they're setting up this idea of, later on we'll talk about trying to they'll do a movie release first. They'll bring it to an art cinema. And then they'll get mail-order catalog sales going. Yeah. So not as successful as Manga Entertainment's became. Sony, of what they're talking about, Sony, Polygram, Orion, and Video Comics. Sony is really the only one today
that is still around.
That's that's the long-term winner of the setting up the manga anime experience that they've got. And not at all the way, I mean, here they're characterizing Sony as, a traditional music company distributor.
Yeah.
Whereas, the Sony today, where it owns Spider-Man and it owns, it sets up its own animation division.
Yeah.
So it's a much larger content creator today than it was in 95. And very much this kind of, the 95 Sony they're talking about isn't what it became.
I can't believe you just called Sony a content creator.
They are. Yeah, Sony did some anime content creation, content creator. Yeah, like Mr. Beast.
Yeah.
You got Sony's content creator, Mr. Beast content creator. So the Orion Home Video set up with Streamline Pictures, trying to grow that American popular culture anime space. But it was very short-lived. I mean, there was a boom here in 95. But the irony being that the prediction that they're making here is right and wrong. Orion's traditional video distribution approach did work quite well initially, but then it was Sony's pivot to actually making that content rather than just distributing it.
Yeah.
That made the huge difference. Well, let's hear how the article goes on to explain Orion and some of the products that Orion was working on.
Orion approach seems to work given the context of Streamline's library. Since its inception 7 years ago, Streamline Pictures has concentrated on acquiring the best theatrical anime available for distribution in North America. Streamlight's initial exploitation of these films begins with theatrical exhibition in independent theaters and through theatrical repertory. Once an animated film has received some critical reception and played through a number of major cities, it is made available for home video. Streamlight's string of theatrical releases include Akira, Fist of the North Star, The Professional, Vampire Hunter D, Robot Carnival, Lensman, Wicked City, and the forthcoming space adventure Cobra.
Right, so North Star, the Professional, Vampire Hunter D, Akira, Robot Carnival, Lensman, Wicked City, Space Adventure Cobra. You know, these were really the big titles that got global interest in the West from Japan.
And have now become unknown.
I guess, yeah, they're very nostalgically remembered. Akira, Fist of the North Star...
Spider-Man, Batman, Lensman, with the magnifying glass.
They are pretty dated. Well, I guess, okay, I'll play a clip. So here's some promotion. Here's some promotions for those particular titles. So this is the Akira Sci-Fi Channel promotion. We'll have a little listen to that just to put us in the mood as to how they were promoting it. It was a good strategy they had in terms of first releasing them on cinema. In the cinema, in our kind of art house cinemas. So Akira, 1988, was distributed theatrically in the US. Many of these other titles came to Australia in anime kind of movie festivals that would play at Village or Hoyts for a short period of time.
Other cinemas are also available.
Well, I mean, that was the thing about the Australian cinema market. There were small boutique cinemas, but you were pretty much talking about... Because I know I went to see the anime festival, the manga festival that had Fist of the North Star, Go-Go 13, Robot Carnival, Space Adventure Cobra, and that was at Hoyts.
Oh yeah,
right. Yeah, you were still stuck going to your big cinema, and that was the Australian market. The smaller cinema chains weren't located as centrally. Anyway, here's the Akira promo from '98.
Warning: the following offer is for mature audiences only.
Exciting, mysterious, intense, graphic, provocative, raw. This is no ordinary animation. This is the exotic, bizarre, and beautiful world of Japanese anime. And this is your invitation to enter with the modern classic Akira. Critics say Akira makes Blade Runner look like Disney World. It's action-packed, the future of animation. Siskel and Ebert call it the video pick of the week. Akira is yours for only $4.95 with subscription when you order the Best of Japanese Animation Collection Series. With these state-of-the-art sci-fi classics, you will enter a world beyond imagination, a future out of control, and an experience you will never forget. Don't say we didn't warn you.
Call 1-800-414-4422 now to order Akira for only $4.95 plus $3.75.
$4.95.
Yeah.
That's dirt cheap. Anyway, that phone number probably doesn't work anymore. You could ask for your $4.95 copy of Akira. But yeah, it was a really interesting strategy in terms of this idea of prestige anime they were offering with titles like Akira. It was going to be this kind of approaching 21st century anime portal that you could watch at the cinema, and then you'd order it via a mail order catalog to get it home. And that was the US model, where it wasn't. The Australian and UK model was different. It was really, Manga Entertainment did a fantastic job at getting into all the video stores, getting their product pushed out, 5 titles for $10, however much it was. Whereas, yes, the US market here was theatrical release, then order it online, and the VHSs were I don't know, VHSs were really expensive to produce and distribute, so $4.95 in '98. You must have been stuck in a kind of like, this is your first one, and then you've got to get 10 other titles at $40 each or something. Also, what's interesting here is that this strategy of course, exist without a kind of internet fan community that we have today.
Yeah.
Where there'd be binging, where you just get through the whole episode. You were waiting for whenever this movie was going to get scheduled. Then you'd watch the video. There'd be a trailer like that at the start. So it was, I guess what this is emphasizing is it's niche, right? It's a small amount of product. You have to timetable yourself to get to the movie to watch it. Then you have to order it, wait for it to come in the mail, or go to the video store, and whatever titles they've stocked is what you're going to watch. And I guess you've got, word of mouth that this is trying to build. So let's go to the next paragraph.
Has been the company's focus on distributing English language versions of these films. The bulk of the material released in the US has been put out in subtitled versions. Streamline's president, Carl Masick, an animation producer in his own right, has noted that all animation is dubbed, and that Streamline's goal is to make viewer-friendly product which will be easy to assimilate by the mainstream public. The longevity of these titles as classic anime and the quality of the original and English language post production have positioned Streamline's video comics titles as an evergreen library which sells significant numbers for every title, month after month. A recent article in Newsweek still points to Akira as the major title in this niche genre.
All animation is dubbed, which is a little insight into one of the big debates that raged back then in '95 and still today, which is the sub versus dub debate.
Yep.
Right, which this article's staking its claim with Carl Masick's claim that, or point, that all animation is dubbed, to legitimize the English dubbing of anime. That was pretty much the standard during this 95 period. Most of the titles you were going to be watching dubbed, and there was some backlash amongst some fans at that point saying they'd prefer it subbed.
Yeah.
But that was considered a premium product that you had to pay more for to get the subtitled version. And, there weren't as many titles available. Most of the titles were going to be dubbed. And the idea being was that, it needed to be, as the article's saying, viewer-friendly product which is easy to assimilate by the mainstream public.
Yeah.
And their idea was that the only way that could happen would be is dubbing it into English. Do you have any feelings about the dub versus sub debate? Do you reckon they were right there, that actually, it did require it to get dubbed, that it was, when it was dubbed in English, that it was...
All I can talk about is from what I've seen. I prefer dub.
Pokemon,
yeah, Spirited Away, all of Studio Ghibli.
Any reason why do you prefer dub?
I don't know, it just sounds better to my ears.
Oh, it does?
Yeah.
I mean, there's a whole series. If you're bored looking for something to do a YouTube search of sub versus dub. Yeah. There are all these compilations of which performance does it better.
Yeah.
I mean, the initial 95 period is notorious for having poorly paid, unprofessional, non-voice actor people doing the dub.
Have you ever, you've seen Squid Game?
Yes.
Have you listened to the dubbed version of Squid Game?
Yeah, I can't.
It is.
Well, it's not that I can't. I could, but
it is really terrible.
What makes it so bad?
Because the voice actors are, I have no idea. They don't put any emphasis or any change to their voice, and they said, "Oh, that person has died. Now let me go over here."
And look, and. In some ways, that's where this philosophy could be considered as short-sighted in terms of, in today's streaming environment where you can choose dub or sub at the flick of a switch, it does give you this experience of listening to the actor themselves perform, possibly a more authentic experience than the unemotional dub that it sounds like.
Whereas, if you have Howl's Moving Castle, Howl, played by Christian Bale, in his best performance that he's
really done. Okay, yeah. Because I know, I think Ponyo has Liam Neeson in it. There was a moment where Ghibli. I mean, see, that's the other thing that Ghibli was after this article as well.
Yeah,
so this is the other. I mean, I'd point to two things that happened after this article, which really did make anime huge. and neither of which are in this article because it would be apocryphal. One is Pokemon, and the second one is Ghibli, right? That Ghibli was, I mean, this article's talking a lot about aspiring to mainstream success, that what we're looking for is titles and dubbing it so we can get it into family-friendly product that can be easily assimilated to the mainstream public. That arrived with Ghibli.
Yeah.
Right? And anything up until Ghibli was a partial success, right? Sailor Moon, right? All these efforts to launch. I mean, none of the titles so far that we've looked at, Akira, Fist of the North Star, Go-Go 13, The Professional, Vampire Hunter D, Robot Carnival, Lensman, Wicked City, Space Adventure Cobra are family-friendly, right? They're all very much your niche sci-fi, action, adventure, violence, whereas, yes, it wasn't until Ghibli, I feel, like, My Neighbor Totoro, Spirited Away was the film that synchronized both, I think, the same time it launched in Japan, it launched in the West, and was considered to be enormously globally successful. And then the dubbing for it, also you would have famous Western actors starting to dub Ghibli films in particular.
Yeah.
So yeah. And that's not until quite a few years after this article. But it is, I mean, the one thing they get right is that kind of prestige anime, which is what Ghibli also offered.
Yeah.
That Ghibli offered that prestige product, which is family friendly. That once it's dubbed, it's doesn't lose its Japaneseness, which I think is where this article gets it wrong as well. I think they define, viewer friendly product that is easy to assimilate by the mainstream public. Also, not too Japanese, right? Yes, it can be cyberpunk future. It can be, assassin James Bond type character in Go-Go 13. But yes, not that. And I guess the other title here that, 95 Evangelion screens in Japan. It's not until a few years later that it screens in Australia and the West. So Evangelion also probably is that third title. It's still a bit niche though, isn't it, Evangelion? Not really.
I've not heard of it.
You have.
I haven't.
Really?
Yeah.
Neon Genesis Evangelion. Oh, yeah, well, see, that's interesting. So that was a real cultural touchstone anime. It was on TV. People fell in love with it. But maybe a bit like Attack on Titan, right?
I've heard of that.
Or One Piece, right? You have to be of that generation to say, oh, well, that broke through to the mainstream.
Yeah.
But okay, that's interesting, yeah. So in that case, that's not the third factor. It's still Pokemon and Ghibli films.
Yeah.
That are really the two central properties. All right, well, let's push on.
Recent activity in the acquisition of anime properties by a growing number of US distributors has given Streamline and Orion cause to reevaluate their marketing strategy. But rather than compete with the glut of product which is flooding the market,
I don't know what that is.
Streamline is content to work
Cyborg.
on quality productions. It's like the tortoise and the hare. Every new company is trying to beat the competitor to the punch with the latest material from Japan. We had a goal in mind when we started. We made a list of titles and went after that list. So far, we have been able to acquire distribution rights to nearly every title we set out to bring to market. The strategy seems to be working. Most new product produced for the domestic Japanese market is getting farther and farther away from the neutral international productions of the late 1980s. Following the phenomenal success of highly ethnocentric teen adventure series Sailor Moon, $250 million at last count. Most new anime productions incorporate the same sort of super-deformed characters and physical gestures which contributed to the program's uncanny popularity. But as these gestures and design elements become more and more esoteric and obtuse, the ability of this type of material to take hold in the savvy, mainstream US domestic merchandising arena is uncertain.
I'll pause it there. There's a number of really interesting points.
Yep.
But first, so I'll play a little clip from the Go-Go 13 Assassin thing for us to listen to, just quickly now. Yep.
Leonard Dawson is the richest man in the world. Powerful people make enemies. If an enemy becomes a problem, someone calls the professional. Codename Golgo 13.
Target, former Nazi SS captain, Bernard Mueller.
I'll take the job. He never kills for sport. He never misses the mark. And he never gets involved.
Can't you let this one go?
But this time, it's personal. The hunter has become the hunted. Because this time, he's the target.
We found Golgo 13's preparing to shoot, sir.
Go see if you got him this time.
We had him cornered, he was wounded, and yet he was neither captured nor sanctioned.
The next time, either he dies or you die.
I want to know who's really behind all this. Did you find out who ordered it?
I will not tolerate it a third time. Do you understand me? That the next time you fail is when you all die.
We have only one enemy.
Golgo 13. Kill him.
Yeah, so that's typical kind of adult aimed, not your Ghibli or Pokemon space. But where I think the article talks about how, will these really culturally specific, it refers to them as esoteric and obtuse gestures. So in particular, it points to super deformed characters and physical gestures. In the sense of Sailor Moon, it's saying it made to the program's uncanny popularity. It's very much dismissing the Japaneseness of it. So my reading of this is that, when it refers to highly ethnocentric teen adventure Sailor Moon, and then it says, the sort of super deformed characters it has and physical gestures, it's saying, those are really too Japanese. And the questions it's asking here is, will this material take hold in the savvy mainstream US domestic merchandise area? Right. So will people want to buy your kawaii, cute, super deformed? Do you know what the super deformed phrase
like
is?
Chibi.
Yeah. Super deformed was the phrase for it in 95.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah.
It literally translated the kind of chibi or kawaii character distortion. So you'd have a character like Sailor Moon or Dragon Ball who maybe is portrayed a little more action-oriented, but then you'd have the super cute version of it.
Yeah.
Which would be kind of a squashed version. The eyes would be bigger.
Less and less detail, yeah.
Do you think that aesthetic has, in fact, become popular? Do you think that the chibi, super deformed anime style is
more
a popular style?
More than what they expected.
Yeah. And I would agree. My feeling here is, again, this is an example of the article saying, that stuff's too Japanese, and what they're looking for is more culturally neutral properties. That their argument being the 95 and future Western market will only be successful if it's not too weird and other, which I think gets it wrong. I mean, particularly if you look at Ghibli's success, where it is culturally specific in many of their shows. Certainly My Neighbor Totoro, Kiki's, well, maybe less so Kiki's Delivery Service, but there are aspects, the aesthetics of it. There'll be, kawaii, cute characters that are kind of portrayed there. What would you say would be the most cute or Ghibli film? Right, the one which had a lot of merchandise, or Totoro, the Totoro creature.
I reckon, yeah. And then all of the other little goblins, not just the big one, but all of the small ones, which were like a lot smaller, and then they could have them life size.
Yes, yeah. I think that became quite a popular design for that. So yeah, I'd say that
Nausicaa with those beasts.
Nausicaa's different. I'd say Nausicaa. Yeah, I mean there are cute versions because Nausicaa is a kind of Mad Max, post-apocalyptic wasteland space. Yeah. All right. Well, we've got about 5 minutes left on the show, so we'll push through to the end of the article.
Oh God.
As far as Massic and Streamline are concerned, is in co-production and joint ventures with anime producers and rights holders. By combining the best of both East and West, a new category of product will be unleashed for global consumption. Several other companies have the similar viewpoints. Manga Entertainment, Bandai, and several other companies are pre-buying territories for new anime productions. Jim Lee's GN13 is scheduled to hit the market sometime in 1996 as a direct-to-video production.
This is really interesting. So Gen 13, have you ever heard this title?
No,
So
never.
Gen 13, so they talk a lot about Gen 13 in the rest of the article, saying, this is the article, this is the anime. So it's based on a comic book series, Gen 13. It's kind of an X-Men comic from Jim Lee. It's not part of Marvel or DC. In 95, they were producing it for it to become this big adult animation from Disney that was going to be this kind of, anime's creating Akira and Ghost in the Shell. Well, the West can do this with Gen 13. So there was a lot of hype on Gen 13. Ended up not being distributed.
Oh, right.
They held it. It never had a US release. It got released in the UK and Australia on a limited release and was forgotten about. It was just dumped. It's fascinating looking at the Wikipedia entry for Gen 13. I mean, successful comic book series. And they kind of screened it at the Wizard World Chicago convention in '98, and it was pulled.
Yeah.
It never got a America release, at least according to Wikipedia. And it was considered not to have the type of polish that people thought a Disney film should have.
Okay, yeah.
And it was a gamble. It was a more adult oriented kind of teen mature. That's the timer. Reminding me I'm wrapping up my show.
Okay, that's good.
But it is interesting. That kind of, East-West collaboration that they also have in this article didn't really pan out. You had some titles like Afro Samurai in later years, quite a few years after this. But that model they're speaking about here, that the future they see in the anime business is for collaboration between East and West. That's the only way you'll get a huge Western English-speaking market and spin-off benefits to Japan. Ended up being completely wrong.
Yeah.
Right? Japan dominated after 95 with anime titles it was producing. Ghibli being probably the best example of that, but many, many other Japanese-based companies went on to enormous success.
Yu-Gi-Oh!
Yu-Gi-Oh! One Piece, right? I mean, everything was from Japanese companies still, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't co-produced with Marvel or co-produced with DC Comics, right? It was Japanese produced for maybe an initial domestic market that then had a global spin-off. And maybe there was a Western version of it. You do the live-action One Piece now, 30 years later with One Piece, right? But not at all the type of success that this article prophesized.
Yeah.
Let's a musical interlude, and we'll come back with final thoughts. Yeah. So, welcome back to Media Mothership. There we go. Predictions. What nailed it? I mean, not much.
Yeah.
On the article. Sailor Moon, Dragon Ball weren't the big properties that it was saying the future of anime is going to be defined by. That ended up being a few years later with Pokemon. And there were more misses and misfires, I think, with the whole idea of the less Japanese the product is, the better. Again, I think Ghibli spoke to the opposite of that.
Yeah.
The fact that Japan went on to have an enormous tourist boom linked to this idea of its soft power with manga and anime. You had artists like Quentin Tarantino wanting to bring in a bit of Japanese vibe with a short animated Japanese anime feature in Kill Bill. Right? So just having any Japanese anime vibe in there because of its cultural difference became central. And I think in terms of this article, you can see a lot of a failure to understand the Japanese market at this point and what was making their animation superior to at least a Western market for an older demographic.
And what the Western tastes would be, too.
Yeah. I think I think Sailor Moon's gone on to become an interesting character, but at the time it was first launched in 95, failed to get the type of success they were hoping for. So I think these days with like streaming services like Crunchyroll and being able to jump between a dub or a sub shows that whole kind of all animation is dubbed, and therefore we just want to localize it into what is Western, the most Western of it. Shows it's different. So, we'll consider now what will be popular in the next 30 years.
Yeah. It just reminds me of my favourite dub from Pokemon, which is, I'll turn my trusty frying pan into a drying pan. And that is a gag which would not work in the original.
Well, I did have an honours student, Susan Cummings. Shout out to Susan, fan of the show. She did her honours thesis on the Western dub of Pokemon.
Yeah.
And all the things they relabeled, like onigiri was relabeled as a donut. Even though it was drawn still as a rice ball. She collected all these examples of just tone deaf localization efforts to remove this kind of it's a cartoon or it's a comic, so no one will notice. Anyway, so that's Media Mothership for another week. Show notes are available via the podcast. Join us on Discord. We're setting that up now. So, yeah.
Wow, yeah.
Keep listening. We've got a special broadcast of Ariane's Bookshelf coming up that will have an interview with a fantastic author. So keep listening now to Edge Radio.
An unnamed author.
Fantastic author. Well, I thought you had didn't you have a post saying something?
No.
No. Okay. You just wanted to remind me that make sure we're off by 5.
Yep.
Okay. Keep listening to Edge Radio 99.3 FM.